The engagement party was in full swing when I arrived at the Grand Meridian Hotel, pulling my modest Honda into the valet area. My sister Jessica's Mercedes was already prominently displayed near the entrance, gleaming under the carefully positioned lights. She'd made sure of that, of course. Everything about Jessica's upcoming wedding had to scream wealth and status. I'd barely stepped into the lobby when my mother spotted me from across the marble floor. Her expression shifted from practiced elegance to visible disappointment in seconds. "Emma," she said, her voice carrying that particular tone of restrained displeasure she'd perfected over the years. "You wore that dress to your sister's engagement celebration." I glanced down at my simple navy shift dress, perfectly appropriate but clearly not expensive enough for the occasion. "It's nice to see you too, Mom." "Don't be dramatic. I'm simply saying Jessica sent you links to appropriate attire. She even offered to help you purchase something suitable." My mother's eyes swept over me again. "But I suppose we can't all make the effort." Before I could respond, Jessica materialized beside us, resplendent in a cream designer gown that probably cost more than my monthly salary. Her fiancé Bradley hovered nearby, looking uncomfortable in his custom suit. "Emma." Jessica air-kissed near my cheeks. "You made it. I wasn't sure you'd come, considering." She trailed off meaningfully. "Considering what?" "Well, the accommodations. Bradley and I booked the presidential suite, obviously. Mom and Dad have the executive suite. Most of the wedding party has the deluxe rooms." She lowered her voice conspiratorially, though her eyes gleamed with something sharp. "I know this is all very expensive for someone on a teacher's salary. I had them reserve you a budget room. 3rd floor. It's small, but it has everything you need." "That's thoughtful," I said evenly. "I try to be considerate of everyone's circumstances." Jessica smiled brightly. "Anyway, the cocktail reception is starting. Try to mingle, won't you? Though I know networking isn't really your thing." The next 2 hours were a masterclass in subtle humiliation. Jessica had invited 200 people to this engagement party, an elaborate affair that was apparently just the warm-up to the actual wedding weekend. Everywhere I turned, someone was discussing property investments, luxury vacations, or business ventures. My aunt cornered me near the champagne fountain to ask, in a voice dripping with pity, if I was still teaching those troubled children. "I teach high school English," I corrected gently. "The students are wonderful." "Oh, of course. Very noble work. Not lucrative, but noble." She patted my arm. "Your parents must be so proud that at least one daughter turned out successful." By the time dinner was announced, I was ready for a break. The seating chart positioned me at a back table with distant cousins I'd met twice in my life. Jessica and Bradley held court at the head table, surrounded by their wealthy friends and business associates. During the salad course, my father stood to make a toast. "To my daughter Jessica," he began, his voice warm with pride, "who has built an incredible career in finance and found a partner equally accomplished. Bradley, welcome to our family. Together, you two represent everything we could hope for in the next generation." I noticed he didn't mention having 2 daughters. After dinner, I excused myself and headed to the front desk to check into my room. The lobby had quieted, most guests still at the reception. A young desk clerk greeted me with a professional smile. "Good evening. Checking in." "Yes, Emma Hartley. I believe there's a reservation." She typed quickly, then paused, her expression shifting to something puzzled. "Oh, yes. Room 302. Our budget accommodation." "That's fine. It's just," she glanced at her screen again, then at me. "Never mind. Here's your key card. 3rd floor, turn left from the elevators." The room was exactly as Jessica had described. Small, clean, functional, and thoroughly unimpressive. A far cry from the luxurious suites I'd seen in the hotel's promotional materials. I set down my overnight bag and caught my reflection in the modest mirror above the dresser. Same Emma as always. Same quiet, apparently unsuccessful Emma who didn't quite measure up. My phone buzzed. A text from Jessica. "Hope the room is okay. Breakfast tomorrow at 9 in the Skyview restaurant. It's formal, so dress accordingly." I was about to respond when another text came through, this one from my mother. "Please try to look presentable tomorrow. Jessica's future in-laws will be there." I turned off my phone and went to bed. The next morning I chose a simple gray pantsuit and minimal jewelry. Presentable but not ostentatious. When I arrived at the Skyview restaurant, the entire wedding party had already gathered. Jessica had clearly gone all out, floral arrangements on every table, a specialized breakfast menu, and what appeared to be a champagne fountain. Emma. My mother waved me over to their table with barely concealed urgency. You're late. And is that what you're wearing? It's 8:55, Mom. And yes. Never mind. Just try to make conversation, please. Bradley's parents are here. She gestured to an elegant couple who were deep in discussion with my father about golf club memberships. I found a seat at the edge of the table next to a bridesmaid I'd never met. She introduced herself as Veronica and immediately launched into a story about her recent purchase of a vacation home in the Hamptons. I nodded politely and focused on my coffee. Midway through breakfast, Jessica stood and clinked her glass for attention. Everyone, I just want to say thank you for being here. This weekend means everything to Bradley and me. We've worked so hard to build our careers and our life together, and having you all here at this beautiful hotel to celebrate with us is just perfect. Applause rippled through the room. Bradley stood and wrapped an arm around her waist. We're also excited to announce that we've just closed on a penthouse in the city. Jessica's bonus this year made it possible. More applause. My mother practically glowed with pride. And, Jessica continued, her eyes scanning the room until they landed on me, we wanted to make sure everyone could be part of this weekend, regardless of their financial situation. That's why we made arrangements for family members who might struggle with the costs. Because family is family, even when some of us are more successful than others. Several people glanced in my direction. I felt heat creep up my neck but kept my expression neutral. After breakfast, as guests dispersed to enjoy the hotel's amenities, Jessica approached me with her bridal party in tow. Emma, we're doing spa treatments this afternoon. It's $500 per person, so I didn't book you. I figured that would be too much on a teacher's budget. I appreciate your consideration, I said quietly. But you could come sit in the relaxation lounge with us. They have free cucumber water. Veronica giggled at this. I think I'll explore the hotel instead. Jessica's smile sharpened. Of course. Though I should warn you, the amenities here are really geared toward a certain clientele. The pool requires resort wear, no basic one-pieces, you know. The fitness center has a dress code. Even the business center requires a day pass. I'll manage. I'm sure you will. She leaned closer. Look, Emma, I know this weekend probably makes you feel bad about your choices. Teaching instead of pursuing a real career. Living in that tiny apartment. Never finding someone successful like Bradley. But you shouldn't feel bad. Not everyone can be accomplished. Someone has to be ordinary. Something flickered in my chest, not anger but a distant sadness. If you say so, Jessica. I do say so. And honestly, it's good for people to see the contrast. Makes Bradley and me look even better. She laughed as if this were a joke, but her eyes were serious. Anyway, enjoy your afternoon. Try not to feel too out of place. As she walked away, Veronica Stage whispered, Is that really your sister? She's so successful and put together. You two are nothing alike. I spent the afternoon in my small room, reading and trying to ignore the succession of texts from family members. My aunt wanted to know if I needed help finding professional clothing for the rehearsal dinner. My cousin asked if I was doing okay financially, and offered to send me links to budgeting apps. Even my father sent a brief message. Your mother and I hope you're being pleasant to Jessica's friends. This is an important weekend for her. By evening I'd had enough. The rehearsal dinner was scheduled for 7 o'clock in the hotel's grand ballroom. I arrived exactly on time, wearing the one formal dress I'd packed, a simple black number I'd had for years. My mother intercepted me at the door. Emma. That dress. What about it? You wore it to your cousin's wedding 3 years ago. People will remember. Then they have excellent memories. She sighed dramatically. Just try not to embarrass us, please. The ballroom was spectacular. Crystal chandeliers, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city, tables draped in ivory silk. Jessica had outdone herself. I found my place card at a table near the kitchen doors, as far from the head table as possible while still technically being in the room. Dinner was an elaborate 5-course affair. Between the second and third courses, Bradley's father stood to make a toast. To Jessica and Bradley. 2 brilliant young people who represent the very best of their generation. ambitious, successful, and completely devoted to each other. Then my father stood. I'll be brief. Jessica, you've exceeded every expectation we ever had. Your career, your accomplishments, your choice of partner. All exemplary. Your mother and I couldn't be prouder. I waited for him to mention me. He didn't. After dessert, Jessica pulled me aside near the bar. She'd had several glasses of champagne and her carefully maintained composure had loosened slightly. Are you having fun, Emma? It's a beautiful event. It is, isn't it? Do you know how much this weekend is costing? The engagement party, this dinner, the wedding tomorrow? Over $300,000. Can you even imagine having that kind of money? I'm happy you have the resources to celebrate how you want. Resources. She laughed. Such a teacher word. It's called success, Emma. Bradley and I are successful. We worked hard, made smart choices, built careers. We didn't settle for mediocrity. Teaching isn't mediocre. Sure, if you like being poor and unimportant. She swayed slightly. Do you know what Mom said to me last week? She said, thank God at least one of my daughters turned out well. At least one, Emma. Isn't that funny? Hilarious. You could have been something. You were smart enough. But you chose wrong and now look at you. 32 years old, single, living in a studio apartment, making $50,000 a year teaching kids who probably won't amount to anything either. Before I could respond, Bradley appeared and gently steered Jessica away. Come on, sweetheart. Let's get some water. As they left, Veronica materialized with 2 other bridesmaids. Oh my God, is it true you're staying in one of the budget rooms? Like the ones they give to staff families. I'm staying in room 302 if that's what you mean. That's so sad. I mean, Jessica tried to help you out by getting you a cheap room, but still. Being here and seeing how the other half lives must be really hard for you. I'm managing. You're so brave. She said it like a compliment, but her eyes were gleaming with amusement. I excused myself and headed back to my room. The hallway on the 3rd floor was quiet, almost institutional compared to the luxury of the upper floors. I just unlocked my door when my phone rang. Unknown number. Hello. Ms. Hartley? This is James Mitchell, the general manager of the Grand Meridian. I apologize for the late call, but I wanted to personally welcome you to our hotel. I understand you're here for a family wedding. Yes, that's right. Wonderful. I also wanted to let you know that if you need anything at all during your stay, please don't hesitate to contact me directly. We want to ensure your experience is perfect. That's very kind. The room is fine. There was a pause. The room. Yes. Ms. Hartley, if I may ask, is there a reason you didn't mention your relationship with the property when you made your reservation? My sister made the reservation. And I prefer to keep certain things private, Mr. Mitchell. Of course. I completely understand. But if you change your mind about the accommodations. The room is fine. Thank you for calling. After I hung up, I sat on the edge of the narrow bed and allowed myself a small smile. Tomorrow was going to be interesting. The wedding day dawned bright and clear. I dressed in the one formal gown I'd brought, a deep emerald silk that I'd purchased years ago but rarely had occasion to wear. When I arrived at the bridal suite to check in with my family, my mother took one look at me and frowned. Green? To a wedding. It's a perfectly appropriate color. If you say so. She turned back to Jessica, who was holding court in a white silk robe, surrounded by makeup artists and hairstylists. Sweetheart, you look absolutely radiant. Jessica caught my reflection in the mirror. Emma. You came. I thought maybe you'd skip the actual ceremony. You know, given how uncomfortable you must feel. I wouldn't miss it. Well, you can't stay long. This room is for the bridal party only. You understand. I did understand. I left and made my way to the ceremony venue, a stunning outdoor terrace on the hotel's top floor. Rows of white chairs faced an elaborate floral arch. A string quartet played softly. It was objectively beautiful. The ceremony began precisely at 2 o'clock. Jessica looked stunning in her designer gown. Bradley looked appropriately moved. My father walked her down the aisle with visible pride. The officiant spoke about love and partnership and building a future together. I sat in the back row and watched my sister marry a man who would probably never know the parts of her that weren't carefully curated for public consumption. The reception was held in the grand ballroom, transformed now with thousands of flowers and elaborate lighting. I found my place card at a table with distant relatives again. Jessica and Bradley made their grand entrance to thunderous applause. The first dance was choreographed and perfect. The toasts were glowing. My father stood during dinner. Today I gained a son and watched my daughter become part of an exceptional partnership. Jessica and Bradley, you represent everything we hoped you'd be. Successful, ambitious, and completely devoted to excellence. Still no mention of having 2 daughters. Between courses, Jessica and Bradley circulated among the tables. When they reached mine, Jessica was glowing with champagne and triumph. Emma, are you having a good time? It's a beautiful wedding. It really is, isn't it? Worth every penny. Though I suppose $300,000 seems like an impossible amount to someone like you. She leaned down, her voice lowering. You know what the worst part is? Mom and Dad didn't even want to invite you. They said it would be awkward having you here when everyone else is so successful. But I insisted. Because that's what good sisters do. How generous of you. I thought so. He straightened. Anyway, enjoy the rest of the reception. Try the champagne. It's $400 a bottle. Probably the most expensive thing you'll ever drink. As she walked away, one of Bradley's groomsmen slid into the empty seat beside me. You're the sister, right? The teacher. Yes. That's cool. I mean, it's no Fortune 500 company, but someone's gotta do it, right? He grinned like he'd said something kind. The reception continued. Dancing, more champagne, and elaborate cake cutting. Around 9 o'clock, I decided I'd fulfilled my family obligation and quietly slipped out. The lobby was bustling with hotel guests and wedding attendees spilling over from the reception. I was heading toward the elevators when I heard my name. Ms. Hartley. I turned to find James Mitchell, the general manager, approaching with what appeared to be concern. Is everything all right? You're leaving the reception early? Just tired. It's been a long weekend. Of course. Though I did want to speak with you briefly if you have a moment. Before I could respond, my mother's voice cut through the lobby. Emma. Where are you going? The reception isn't over. She approached with my father in tow, both looking displeased. Behind them, I could see Jessica and several wedding guests had followed, apparently curious about the commotion. I was just heading to my room, Mom. Without saying goodbye. How rude. My mother noticed Mr. Mitchell. Oh, I'm sorry. We didn't mean to interrupt. Mr. Mitchell smiled politely. No interruption at all, Mrs. Hartley. I was just speaking with Ms. Hartley about her stay. I hope she hasn't been complaining. My mother laughed lightly. We explained that she's on a limited budget. The budget room was appropriate for her circumstances. Mom, I said quietly. What? It's true. You can't afford to stay in a luxury hotel like this on a teacher's salary. There's no shame in that. Jessica had reached us now, slightly breathless from her hurried exit from the ballroom. What's going on? Nothing, I said. I was just leaving. The manager stopped her, my mother explained. I hope Emma didn't cause any problems with her accommodations. Mr. Mitchell's expression had shifted to something carefully neutral. No problems at all. Though I confess I'm somewhat confused by the situation. What situation? Jessica's eyes narrowed. Well, Mr. Mitchell said slowly, I'm trying to understand why Ms. Emma Hartley, the owner of this hotel, was placed in our smallest budget room while her family occupies the luxury suites. The lobby seemed to go very quiet. My mother stared. What? Ms. Hartley owns the Grand Meridian, Mr. Mitchell continued, his voice clear and professional. She's owned it for 5 years along with 6 other properties in this chain. I've been the general manager here for 3 years, and she's been an exceptionally supportive owner. Which is why I was quite surprised to see her checked into room 302. Jessica's face had gone pale. That's not possible. I assure you it is. Mr. Mitchell gestured to a woman approaching from the business center. This is Patricia Coleman, our director of operations. Perhaps she can clarify. Patricia, a sharp-eyed woman in her 50s, nodded to me respectfully. Ms. Hartley, I wanted to personally thank you for the staff bonuses you approved last quarter. The team really appreciated it. You're welcome, Patricia. My father found his voice. Emma, what is this? This is my hotel, Dad. I bought it 5 years ago. The Grand Meridian was struggling and I saw potential. I've been working with Mr. Mitchell to turn it around. But you're a teacher, my mother whispered. I am a teacher. I also invest in real estate. The two aren't mutually exclusive. Jessica was shaking her head. No. This is some kind of mistake. You live in a studio apartment. You drive a Honda. I live simply because I prefer to. And I invest my money rather than spending it on expensive cars. I turned to Mr. Mitchell. Thank you for your concern about my accommodations. I chose the budget room deliberately. I wanted to experience what our most cost-conscious guests experience. Of course. He paused. Though I should mention that room 302 is scheduled for renovation next month. The budget tier hasn't been performing well in our guest satisfaction surveys. I noticed. Let's discuss upgrades tomorrow. Patricia cleared her throat gently. Ms. Hartley, I hate to interrupt, but the city councilwoman just arrived. She's hoping to speak with you about your proposal for the Community Education Fund. The what? My father's voice was faint. Ms. Hartley has been working with the city to establish a fund that provides resources for public school teachers, Patricia explained. It's quite generous, $5 million over 5 years. My mother sat down heavily on a nearby sofa. Jessica was staring at me like she'd never seen me before. You have $5 million to give away? I have considerably more than that, Jessica. But I prefer to use it for things that matter. Education. Community development. Sustainable business practices. I paused. Not $400 bottles of champagne at weddings designed to impress people who don't really care about you. Emma. My father stepped forward. Why didn't you tell us? When would I have told you, Dad? Between the comments about my mediocre career? Or while you were toasting Jessica as your only successful daughter? Several wedding guests had gathered in the lobby now, drawn by the commotion. Veronica stood near the entrance to the ballroom, her mouth open. Mr. Mitchell tactfully gestured to his staff. Perhaps we should move this conversation somewhere more private? No, I said quietly. I think we're done here. Jessica, I hope you and Bradley have a wonderful honeymoon. Mom, Dad, enjoy your executive suite. I'll be in my budget room if anyone needs me. I started toward the elevators. Wait. Jessica's voice was small. Emma, I didn't know. If I'd known. If you'd known I was wealthy, you would have treated me differently. I know. That's exactly why I didn't tell you. I turned back. You spent this entire weekend making sure everyone knew I was less than you. Poor, unsuccessful, mediocre. And I let you because I wanted to see who you really were when you thought I had nothing you wanted. That's not fair, my mother protested. We're your family. Are you? Because family should care about who someone is, not what they have. Family shouldn't need a financial portfolio to show respect. My father looked stricken. We never meant. Yes, you did. You meant every word. Every dismissive comment, every pitying look, every time you pretended I didn't exist because I didn't meet your standards of success. I felt tears prickling but kept my voice steady. I teach because I love it. I live simply because it makes me happy. I invest quietly because I don't need recognition. And I came to this wedding because despite everything you're still my family. But I won't apologize for who I am or how I choose to live. Jessica's carefully applied makeup was starting to run. Emma, please. Can we talk about this? Not tonight. Tonight is your wedding. You should get back to your reception. I looked at Mr. Mitchell. Could you please ensure my family's suites are upgraded to our premier accommodations? I'd like them to enjoy the best this hotel has to offer. Of course, Ms. Hartley. And tomorrow morning, I'd like to meet with you and Patricia to discuss expanding our scholarship program for hospitality students. I think we can do more. Excellent. I'll arrange it. As I walked to the elevator, I heard whispers erupting behind me. The wedding guests would be talking about this for years. Jessica's perfect weekend had just been eclipsed by the sister she'd spent so long dismissing. My phone started buzzing before I even reached my room. Text after text, family members suddenly very interested in talking to me. I turned it off. The next morning I checked out early before anyone else was awake. Mr. Mitchell met me in the lobby with coffee and a warm smile. I took the liberty of preparing the documents for the education fund, he said. And I moved up our meeting about the budget room renovations. Thank you, James. If I may say so, Miss Hartley, you handled that situation with remarkable grace. I don't feel particularly graceful. Nevertheless. He paused. For what it's worth, the staff here thinks very highly of you. Not because you own the hotel but because of how you run it. You remember names, ask about families, invest in training. That's rare. It's just good business. It's more than that. And I think perhaps your family will eventually realize what they almost lost. I wasn't sure about that. But as I drove away from the Grand Meridian, watching it shrink in my rearview mirror, I felt something settle in my chest. Not anger. Not even sadness anymore. Just clarity. My phone buzzed. I turned it back on. A text from Jessica. Please call me. We need to talk. I'm so sorry. Another from my mother. Emma, let's have lunch this week. There's been a terrible misunderstanding. One from my father. I'm proud of what you've accomplished. I should have said so before. I would respond eventually. But not today. Today I had a meeting with the city councilwoman about the education fund. Tomorrow I had a property inspection at one of my other hotels. Next week I was meeting with a group of teachers to discuss classroom resources. My life was full. It had always been full. It just hadn't been full of the things my family valued. And that, I was finally beginning to understand, was perfectly fine.